Hello, welcome to Satan Show. I am, the imposter, LL Tack. In the beginning of our solar system, a nearby single black hole, black star, collected enough matter to grow unstable, producing a momentary supernova. The sparkling dark behemoth was ready to burst from the accumulated energies, finding no release valve. This gigantic brilliant star exploded, and from its destruction, instigated by the gathering of a colossal amount of gravitons and their power, sequestered throughout the interior of the enormous opaque mass. The creation of our solar system began in the wake of that one of many of bangs continually transpiring for trillions of millions of trillions of years. Whether we call it electron, proton, or particle with wave-like features, it is the source of gravity, electromagnetism, light, radiation, plasma, and all physical forces of nature. The comprised collected matter, each individual forming atom of the whole dimensions, containing the gravitons that pulled the fragments together until the larger masses were fashioned by the joining of energy from the small bang's debris. The grandest stars down to the smallest dwarfs forged and destroyed by the gravitons' power. All the sparse glowing lone plasma exuding orbs gravity harnessed extraterrestrial bodies to surround themselves in the aftermath of the enormous black star's detonation. The Sun's dimensional force tugged the wafting planets into its solar system and their current orbits by the energy of the substantial gathering of gravitons, tugging towards its center. The celestial entities moved in line, same as for every solar system within galaxies adjacent to each other, inside the universes that held them in place by the alpha-omega forces of true interminable nature. Many solar systems orbit around a single black hole within the Sun's own galaxy, which circumnavigates around each other inside the protracted universe. The same way the Moon circles the Earth. The galaxy's movements mimic the rest, keeping equal distances apart. All have behaved this way forever, because of the influence of the graviton, which is the most important part of the atom, confused by naming it proton or electron. It is from the not yet understood phenomena of the God particle that we have circular massive matter, inflection molded together in the void. Isolated, the revolving and orbiting variety of a billion spheres displayed everywhere inside the vast vacuum of eternal expansive space. When the Earth formed from the drifting materials gravitons of its beginning's bulk, the general vicinity accumulated debris through gravitational magnetism to create the entirety of the correct proportion. The third planet was also fortunate enough to be within a reasonable distance from the Sun to support life, although any separation away from the direct effects of the Sun's gravity, beyond Mercury all the way to Pluto, would suffice for light rays and heat to sustain organisms. To say it again, the sphere was the correct diameter, per, energy equals mass/volume, for calculating adequate gathered gravity to retain water vapor inside the terrestrial atmosphere of the entire mass. However, not too significant of an attraction, so that the dangerous lighter gases as carbon monoxide and methane could escape the Earth's gravitational magnetic field, referred to as the ozone layer, and leave the planet's protective barrier for immense heat and radiation beyond, out in the vacuumed space. Only extremely lightweight particles, such as radiation waves and light rays, can evade the considerable collection from the graviton's force of the larger diameter planets. It is the exerted retracting strength of the globes, Jupiter and Saturn, affected by both of them thus being enormous gaseous spheres as the result. Diameter is what determines the amount of gravity and the air composition in the atmosphere of a particular cosmic orb. Mars does rotate near the needed revolutions to keep it cool from the 800° Fahrenheit temperature radiated out light years. After the energies escapes the Sun's massive gravitational magnetic field. However, it does not have the correct diameter as Venus and the Earth to hold water vapor inside its atmosphere. The fourth planet from the Sun never held liquid H2O very long after the ancient asteroid catastrophes that deposited the residue, because of a lack of size to retain it, gravity. Venus, contrariwise, just requires its rotation to speed up near 20 to 24 hours per one revolution to become inhabitable. Because of space being a vacuum, light and heat intensities are neighboring the same between Earth and the second planet. Only after traveling millions of miles through material debris and fanning out, As gases and gravitational energy do, the forces of our Sun lose their graviton's dynamism. That is why Mercury is cooler than Venus and Mars' temperature is close to the Earth's own. Rotation and size hold the keys to livable planets similar to ours. Centrifugal or high-speed linear forces create both solid shapes and false matter, either from the spin or the velocity of the object in motion. The best example of false matter is rain clouds. Lightning is the byproduct of gravitational energy released as the conceived magnetic force of the massive solid object of water vapor remains suspended abnormally in the air. Corporeal equilibrium is endeavoring to join the Earth's surface with the unnatural hovering rain cloud, formulating the electrical storms between the two seemingly separate masses. Gigantic dust and sand storms also generate false matter and thus gravity with all of its strange singularities. The gravitational energy is attempting to return the enormous floating detached porous rock not possessing the correct amount of gravitons for its size, to the terra firma. Life began hidden within hurled fragmented agglomerations inside of iced extraterrestrial seawater. Projected towards Earth from another distant planet's destruction, dispatching the asteroids loaded with microorganisms down onto the rolling dry and wet surfaces of the world. This event was not as devastating as the one that exterminated the dinosaurs, because of the celestial falling object's agglutination out of the long-gone extraterrestrial ocean's deep frozen salt water. The Earth's primordial impacts added slight depth to the embryonic existing shallow seas, and fashioned single-cell beings to evolve into all flora and fauna up to the Triassic period's conclusion. The gigantic creatures during that time living most of their lives in the liquid because of the strain from gravity on their hulking dry bodies. The Tyrannosaurus swam after the Brontosaurus all day long. Meteors' solid mass shaped the Triassic collisions, ending the reign of the dinosaurs. These high-velocity metal and rock projectiles punctured the surface of the Earth, releasing tremendous amounts of energy beneath its crust. The upward force underneath capsized wide sections of the planet's near-stationary plates, fashioning the geography we see today. Millions of hurricanes, tornadoes, winters and summers have aided the erosion of the terrain, displaying the weathered present-day shorelines. The two hemispheres' trade winds and weather patterns easily demonstrate each year how the landmasses' shapes formed from their creation to now. Once the cycles of the ice ages commenced, the continent's interiors became victims to the elements' powers. The Grand Canyon digs deeper at each glacial period's end from the flooding of cavernous lakes locked within the melting glaciers. As does the West Texas plateaus, grow taller after more sand washed out from around them across the state into the Gulf of Mexico. This interpreted from outer space staring down upon the planet, separating the two opposing territories at the Rocky Mountains continental divide. With another governing mechanism the transcontinentalists utilize, terror, which has an extremely harsh impact on a single person's thoughts. They and some certified and well-established doctorate professors are then able to install any nonsense in the conditioned individual's critical thoughts of world and society, instituting precedence and conjecture at the same time to persuade and control the confused young mind. That is why it is important for all poor and middle-class children to attend public schools. True isolation and intimidation unabated on neutral grounds, administered there beyond the abuse of what an older sibling could achieve at the family's residence. Spanked or restrained, until of the age to begin preschool or kindergarten, then the same with the addition of more intense bullying and hyperactivity prescription drugs. Parents that have false accusations against them and had to answer to authorities or face prosecution, know well what the system has in store for dissension when individuals of all ages found selected for peer examples. The public understands these institutions are not there to prepare the youth of America for their productive, fearless futures in the grown-up working world. Law, medicine, auto mechanics, refrigeration, and heating repair, the list goes on for further real worth our heirs educators should intend to instill in our offspring. Not what we see from the singled out supposedly gifted, meaning the most athletic, beautiful, and brightest few of all the millions of juveniles, lifted above the ignorant majority. While the public schools discard the rest, all deceived in the end as was their parents' lineage before them. The false idea of what you are supposed to do, a fictional guide to life in America, fresh out of 12th grade. Textbooks and instructions could cover any topic chosen important for society through the force they use today. Very few 19-year-olds require higher math after they graduate, having no need for it working in or managing a cell phone store, etc. However, many young people receive speeding tickets, therefore could benefit from the understanding and difference between a criminal and civil trial along with the court's procedures for their states. All teenagers injure themselves injecting the need for advanced medical training, before public schools kicks them to the curb for the rest of their lives. These are taboo because of the system's hold on the desires of the private few to extort time and obedience from the disenchanted multitudes, to gain the controlled licensed mechanisms. Fear from physical and mental abuse in elementary/middle school, opens the mind to whatever programming the transcontinentalists want to begin, conditioning the masses to accept any future. Life in the US is similar to the ancient warrior classes of the past. Raised as soldiers from the start, when toddlers are able to talk and understand basics, yet do not know it. Look around you and see how anyone is willing to find some kind of a cause, a fight to wage against the omnipotent evil foes encircling the unfortunate faraway victims. Proclaiming bad whomever it is that is mistreating the soil, flora, fauna, or starving children in Brooklyn, New York. This taught from pre-K all the way through the grades, with peer pressure keeping the after hours straight, always not deviating from the generalized continual night and day propaganda. The entire reason is to have you open to reaction to what they say is immediately important, whether it is to restrain or exterminate at that current crisis. Only madness forces a person to go to his neighbor's home to kill him and proclaim the land vacated by his own hands abandonment. This constant drain of always being afraid because of the fake terrorist, real soldiers of fortune though, steers us the direction the transcontinentalists intend the assaulted populations to go. In order to do them a big favor, the poor kill each other off quickly within these zones. No one ever mentions who receives deeds to all the countries left vacant after an entire town or village is wiped out and nobody is remaining to inherit the property. Now imagine if you and your parents completely raised without fear and intimidation. A future vision of modern society revised during your grandparents' time to benefit all, instead of today's tiny minuscule portion of wax capitalizing. The human population realized all of them had been under mind control their entire lives and saw that if fooled into believing in adult Santa Christ, they would buy into anything. So Gramps and Granny called, emailed and just plain walked up to anyone near them to explain what needed to transpire. The people worked outside of their broken system, voted for demonopolization by hand or written ballot to return liberty to the individual states with that process. This did not dissolve the Union, it only made it stronger because it was good human beings all along, alone that made the land great. Moreover, then millions from other American countries with the same beliefs joined them for a united purpose of a minimum standard of dignified living. Will you pledge only allegiance to the people of the Republic, the United States of the Americas from the sole reason for which it stands? Help the Bridge Party bring to life a new fantastic vision. Away from what the international's fiat currencies create, inequality, instead of opportunity. Minds free of stress and fear can imagine more than we ever could, all of us in dire need of deprogramming. We must change to fair societies and helpful governments to escape the robotic nightmare currently set in motion by our own actions, making the transcontinentalists' dreams come true. Thank you for listening to Satan Show. I am, the imposter, LL Tack.